Today is Rosh Chodesh Tammuz, the first day of Tammuz, and I think the 7th of July. And we're looking at the third chapter of Shorish Mitzvah Satfila in Derech Mitzvah Secha. Okay, so we're up to the third chapter. Ha'inyanu. So what we need to do now is to abstract and understand the relationship between the Sefirot and the names of Hashem, and why, in the end, the Kabbalists did connect the two. In the end, they say, Shem Kel B'Chesed, the name of Kel is in Chesed. העניין הוא דרוצה לומר על בחינת הערת הבורא יתברך ממש המתלבש ומתפשט בספירות. So what they want to say is that there is an aspect of the Creator that does enclose and extend through the Sefirot. And we need to define that carefully. What does that mean? So it's not the Creator himself in the Sefirot, it's an aspect of him. As we know, and this is well documented in the Zohar, here is going to mention specifically Igeret HaKodesh 20, but it's also in Igeret HaKodesh 13 in the Tanya. He discusses this, that the infinite revelation, which we call Or Ein Sof, the light of the infinite. So we've said many times, light means revelation. The infinite revelation of the Blessed One, of God, shines and is enclosed in his Sefirot. As is explained in Iu V'Gormo Yichad, in the phrase from the Zohar that says, in the Tikkunei Zohar actually, Iu V'Gormo Yichad, he and his Garmohi is like his bones, literally in Aramaic. But what it means is, it's referring here to the Sefirot, are one. Derotze lomar, Iu al atzmut Or Ein Sof, he refers to the essence of the infinite light, meaning the infinite revelation of God. And when we say that it's infinite, we're saying God could reveal himself any way he wants, but the initial revelation is called an infinite revelation. And why do we call it an infinite revelation? A lot of people think that it's because God is infinite. God is as much infinite as he is finite. There's nothing holding him back in any way. So when we say it's an infinite revelation, or a revelation of his infinite aspect, what we're saying is that there is no limitation there. Meaning that if I would look at the first revelation of godliness in reality, I couldn't distinguish different aspects within it. I couldn't tell you, oh, there's loving kindness here, there's compassion, there is might, you couldn't say that, because it's an infinite revelation. Infinite implies no differences between its different aspects. It's just everything together. So there's no separation there. So it refers to the essence of the infinite revelation of God. The garmoi, and the bones here, really him hakelim de eser sfirot de atzilut, are the vessels. He calls them here vessels. He means the sfirot of the 10 sfirot of atzilut, of the world of emanation. So the vessels, every sphera has two aspects to it, and this is going to become a very important thing now. It has the vessel of the sphera, and it has the light in the sphera. The vessel itself, I'm just adding this in parenthetically so that it makes some sense. The vessel itself is usually divided in the Zohar into 3 parts. The outside of the vessel, like any vessel that I would take. If I take this as a vessel, so I have the outside, I have the inside, and I have the vessel in between the inside and the outside, what makes up the actual vessel. Those correspond to the worlds of Bria, Yetzirah, Asiyah. Usually, that's how they correspond. And then the light inside the vessel is the world of emanation. But here he's saying it a little bit differently. He's saying that the vessel, he's saying in general, the vessel is what's in the world of emanation. Okay? And now he's saying that this infinite revelation of God enclosed itself within the vessels of the Sefirot in the world of emanation. So what have we left? What have we not talked about? We've not talked about the light. He's saying only in the vessel, in the vessel itself, not the light of the sphere. There's the light of the sphere and there's a vessel. Okay? It's a little confusing in the beginning because why would you separate? But like in any vessel, I want to say there's the vessel and there's the content. Right. So he hasn't talked about the content yet. Ve'ol, now he says, but then there's light inside the vessel of the sphera, and that is something else. Hu me'ein hama'ol b'bchinat ein sof mamash. So what goes into the vessel in the world of emanation is an infinite revelation of God. Now, what does it mean that it's infinite? It means that what's inside is indistinguishable from one sphere to the other. Very important. What is inside the sphere is not the same thing as the sphere itself.
Wow.
Okay, so this is a big chiddush. It's not such a big chiddush. I said this is one of the main.
So the light doesn't change.
Right. Oh, so wait. If it changes or not depends on the nature of the vessel. There are vessels that change light. The example that's always brought, and we actually talked about this in the past, is the Ramak wasn't the first one to describe this, but he's the first one to catalog the different opinions. Is that if you have let's say a glass cup, and you put water into it, now there are a few options. The water itself could be colored. Let's say you have water in different colors, and and you have 10 different glass cups, and you have water in 10 different colors. So then the vessels of the Sefirot would all be the same because they're just transparent glass, and all the color is coming from the water. That is not what he's describing here, because he's saying all the water goes into the different vessels is all the same color. Yeah. It's all transparent, it's all infinite. Yeah. Infinite means there's no distinguishing between the water in Chesed and the water in Gvura. So, what else could be? It could be that the vessel itself is tinted in some way. And then when you look at the water from the outside, you think that the water is red, or it's blue, or it's brown, or it's orange. So then the vessel is what's giving the water its particular tone of color. And it's not coming from the water itself. So here is obviously of the opinion that the water itself is the same in all the vessels. It's just the vessels themselves that color the water. It could be that both would be transparent. That's another option. Yeah. And it could be that both would be tinted. Right? We have all these options. And among the Kabbalists, you find all the different opinions.
But I thought the water can't be tinted.
Why not? Hashem could decide beforehand
that
he wants to put his aspect of loving kindness into loving kindness. Right? So there's really 4 different options.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just go over them again. Neither is tinted, neither the water nor the vessel. Both are tinted, or the water is tinted, or the vessel is tinted. Here is going according to the opinion that it's only the vessel that is tinted. The water is the same, the light is the same in every single one of the Sefirot. And therefore, because the water is not tinted, the light is the same in each one of the vessels, we are willing, or it is legitimate to give each one of these vessels, attributing to the water in it a name of God, which we said refers to the essence. So when I say Kel, or I say Elokim, or I say Adni, whichever one of these names, I'm referring to God himself. And that makes sense to attribute that to a sphera, because I'm not talking about the vessel of the sphera, I'm talking about the water, the light of the infinite inside the sphera. And it is not tinted. It is like the essence itself. So the reason I'm giving it a name is because it's in the vessel of loving kindness in this case. Yes. So I call it Kel. It's in the vessel of Gvura. I call it Elokim. But it's still referring to the essence of the light, because that is not different in each of the vessels. So that is the solution to this question of how is it that on the one hand the Sefirot are different, they're not the same thing as godliness, they are a creation, albeit a very spiritual creation. They're not just conceptual, they are a creation. On the other hand, how can I attribute to them names of God which refer to God's essence? Because what's inside the Sefirah is not tinted, it's not in a certain, the light is not colored, it's all the same light in all of them. So really the name is referring to the essence, but it's legitimate to divide the names because of the Sefirot themselves.
Yes.
Okay? כמו עניין שם כל בחסד, אף על פי ששם כל רצוננו לבורא עולם ממש. Even though when we say kel, we mean God himself. מכל מקום, still, nonetheless, הרי באמת כנו, דכוונתנו בזה לבורא עולם, כשמאיר ובא במידת חסדו. So when we say the kel is in chesed, we mean God when he appears through his vessel of loving kindness, of chesed. ושם אלוקים, when we say שם אלוקים, we mean בורא עולם, we mean the creator himself. So, and then, now we add something very important. This is new, ushchina. We talked about shchina, which is a connotation. It's not a name of God. It's not a name that you can't erase. Still, what is the value? Remember, we said that there's connotations also, not just names of God. Names of God are a separate category. They cannot be erased. They're holy. But shchina is just a word. It comes from the Torah, but it's just a word. So Shechina, he says, is related to Malchus. The name there is Adni, is Aleph Daled Nun Yud. But all the connotations that relate to kingdom also belong there. But the Shechina is not a name of God, so it's not referring to God himself. But because it's attached to the sphere of Malchus, we treat it almost like it's referring to the essence itself. Almost like. There is a difference. But still, it makes sense to say that this is related to the sphere of Malchus, and because the sphere of Malchus is God as he comes into his sphere of Malchus, so Shechina also relates to that. And then there's many, many, many connotations. And the famous book that did all the connotations, one of the early Kabbalistic books, was Sha'arei Orah, the gates of light. And what he meant to say is that the light comes in through, like we said, the parable last time that we explained the parable from the Talmud, that the light comes into many rooms from the same sun.
Yes, right.
So he says the gates of light, the light of God comes into different words, and each one of these words is related to a different sphere. So that was Sha'arei Orah by Rabbi Yosef Jaktilia. ונמצא אף על פי שאין 10 שמות ל10 ספירות שונות, ממש. And so we have that even though there are 10 names related to 10 different sfirot. Now we understand, by the way, if you would have the chart, you'd see all of them. The 7 are easy because they're in halacha. Then you have the names for Keter, Chochmah, and Bina, and for Dat also. So there's actually 11. What names do you put there? There's no names that you can't erase them. There's only 7 names that cannot be erased. There's not 10 of them. There's not 11. So what the Mekubalim usually talk about, again, is like a connotation, but which is close to a name. And the thing that's a connotation that's close to a name, which is a whole discussion in halacha, whether it's a name that can't be erased or not, is Ekia, Aleph Hey Yud Hey, which is the name that God gives Moshe just before that's what he sends him to the Exodus with. Ekia Asher Ekia. Yeah. Since it appears 3 times there. Ekia, Ekia, Ekia. Yeah. So all 3 would correspond to Keter, Chochmah, and Bina. All 3 would be in general, but they're the same thing. So what do? So the Mekubalim find all kinds of ways of doing this, and then in that they put Aleph Hey Vav Hey, which is the holiest name connotation that you have that's not a name connotation. It's just a connotation. Aleph Hey Vav Hey, they put that in that. And then they actually divide that into 2 because that has 2 aspects to it. So there's Aleph Hey Vav Hey, which is the masculine side, Aleph Hey Vav Yud, which is the feminine side of that. But in general, you have a whole catalog of words, connotations that relate to each one of the Sefirot. So I think we'll end here today.
Moshe,